Beneath the silence.
The midnight rain lay over the city like a shroud. Street lamps sketched flickering yellow halos on the wet pavement, and as every drop beat against the glass, the trembling in Amy's hands refused to cease. The interior of the car felt tight, as if the walls were closing in with every passing second, making it hard to breathe. She was looking out the windshield, but she saw nothing. A single scene kept replaying before her eyes: the falling body, the spilled blood, the silence. That silence was now etched in her brain. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, then released it, gripped it again. Her knuckles had turned white. The rain intensified. Amy closed her eyes and tried to take a deep breath, but her lungs burned. It had all started with a moment of panic, just one moment, and now a man's blood was on her hands, and that man was no longer breathing. Her phone screen lit up. Ethan was calling. Amy's heart fluttered in her chest. She picked up the phone with shaking hands, but couldn't speak. Ethan's voice echoed in her ears, calm but concerned. "Amy, where are you?" Amy bit her lip, trying to answer, but her throat was parched. Finally, she could whisper a single word. "I did it." There was a pause on the other end. Then Ethan's breathing was heard heavy and controlled. "What did you do?" "I killed him." Silence. The rain continued to drum on the car roof. When Amy opened her eyes, she saw her own reflection in the side mirror. She was looking at a stranger. There was terror in her eyes, but also a strange emptiness, as if her soul had left her body, leaving behind only a trembling shell. "Where are you?" Ethan's voice was sharper now. Amy gave the address. It took only a few seconds for Ethan to hang up, but for Amy, it felt like hours. She couldn't get out of the car. She couldn't move. She just sat there, staring out the wet glass, watching the city lights fade away like a blurred painting. 15 minutes later, Ethan's car appeared at the corner of the street. Amy felt a shred of relief when she saw him, but that relief was immediately replaced by another fear. What would Ethan say to her? How would he look at her? Amy couldn't explain what she had done to herself. How would she explain it to Ethan? Ethan got out of the car. Tall, broad-shouldered, he walked toward Amy's car with determined steps. The rain was soaking him, but he didn't care. Amy rolled down the window. Ethan leaned in, his face very close to Amy's. There was no anger in his eyes, only a deep intensity. "Get in," Ethan said. "Come with me." Amy nodded and got out of the car. Her legs were shaking. Ethan held her by the arm and walked her to his car. Amy collapsed into the passenger seat. Ethan got into the driver's seat and started the engine. The vehicle moved slowly. Ethan drove in silence while Amy stared out the side window. Minutes passed. Amy finally spoke, her voice broken and hoarse. "It was an accident." Ethan didn't answer. He was just focused on the road. Amy continued. "He attacked me. I was just trying to protect myself." "Tell me," Ethan said finally. His voice wasn't judging, but it was emotionless. Amy closed her eyes and began to tell the story. She had arrived at Viktor Kuznetsov's villa at 7 in the evening. Viktor was a wealthy businessman. He had come from Eastern Europe and built a real estate empire in the city. Amy had met him a week ago at a gallery opening. Viktor had approached her, chatted politely, and then offered her a job. Amy was a freelance photographer, and he wanted her to shoot his office buildings and luxury projects. The meeting this evening was to sign the discussed contract. When Amy arrived at the villa, Viktor opened the door. He stood before her without a suit, in casual clothes. His smile was sincere, but there was a light in his eyes that Amy failed to notice. When she entered, the silence of the house had unsettled Amy. There was no staff, just the two of them. Viktor had led her into the spacious living room, offered her a drink, and placed the contract on the table. As Amy looked at the documents, Victor had gotten very close to her, too close. When Amy pulled away, Victor's smile had changed. It had turned cold. "Why are you running away?" Amy felt her heartbeat accelerate. Instinctively, she headed toward the door, but Victor was faster. He placed his hand on Amy's wrist, tightly. "Let's just have some fun." Amy struggled. Victor's grip had tightened. Amy panicked. She grabbed something from the table, not even realizing what it was. A heavy object, a crystal sculpture perhaps. And then she struck. Once, twice. Victor fell backward, hitting his head on the sharp-cornered coffee table. Then, silence. Victor lay on the floor, motionless. Blood was slowly seeping onto the carpet from under his head. Amy took a step back and dropped the object in her hand. Then she turned and ran. Ethan's facial expression hadn't changed as he listened to the story. When Amy finished, the car was plunged into silence for a moment. There was only the sound of the rain, the monotonous rhythm of drops beating the windows. "We need to go to the police," Ethan said, finally. "No," Amy's voice cracked. "They won't believe me. I'll say he tried to rape me, but there's no proof, only my word. And I killed him." "Self-defense." "Ethan, I killed a rich man. They have lawyers, money, connections. Who am I? Nobody." Ethan gripped the steering wheel tightly. Amy saw his jaw tighten. After a long silence, Ethan took a deep breath. Okay, let's think. Let's not act in panic." Amy nodded, but the fear inside her didn't diminish. It just changed shape, turning into another anxiety. Ethan drove the car to his apartment. Both remained silent. The apartment was a small but tidy place, a reflection of Ethan's minimalist taste. When Amy walked in, she felt like a stranger, as if she were in a dream, a bad dream. Ethan brought water from the kitchen. Amy took it but couldn't drink. She just held the glass, feeling the coldness concentrating around her fingers. "What are we going to do tomorrow?" Amy asked, her voice almost childlike. "I don't know," said Ethan, "but you need to rest now. You can't even think." Amy nodded. Ethan led her to the guest room. Amy lay on the bed but couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Victor's falling body, his blood, the silence. By morning, Amy had fallen into a nightmare-filled sleep for a few hours. Ethan woke her up early. His face was tense, his eyes tired. "I checked the news," he said. His voice was dull. Amy stood up. Her heart raced again. "What are they saying?" Ethan handed her his phone. Amy looked at the screen. The headline was written in bold letters. "Real estate tycoon Viktor Kuznetsov found dead in his home." Amy tried to read the news, but got lost in the words. Only some phrases caught her eye. Crime scene investigation, suspicion of murder, signs of blunt force trauma on the body. Then she saw a photograph. Victor's wife. Amy's breath caught. The woman was beautiful, blonde, elegant, but more importantly, she was familiar, very familiar. "This is," Amy whispered, "this is Lena." Ethan looked at her, frowning. "Do you know her?" Amy nodded. Her voice was trembling. "I know her from university. We stayed in the same dorm, but we haven't seen each other in years." Ethan read Amy's shock on his face. He took his phone back and looked at the screen. His wife spoke to the police. She said her husband had been receiving threats lately, that business rivals were targeting him. Amy sat down. She was confused. Lena. Victor's wife was Lena. How could that be? Amy had met him at a gallery opening, but Lena wasn't there. Or was she, and Amy hadn't seen her? "I have to talk to her," Amy said. "What?" Ethan was surprised. "Are you crazy? You want to talk to the woman whose husband you killed?" "But I know Lena. Maybe she'll believe me. Maybe..." Amy, this is madness. The police could be looking for you. You fled the scene. Your fingerprints, your DNA are there. If you go to Lena, you'll give yourself away. Amy covered her face with her hands. Ethan was right, but the voice inside her wouldn't be silenced. She wanted to see Lena, talk to her, explain. Maybe Lena would understand. Maybe she would help. Amy stayed in the apartment all day. Ethan followed the news. Police were investigating the crime scene, looking for witnesses. Victor had meetings with several people in his final days, including business partners, rivals, even a former employee. Amy's name hadn't come up yet, but it was only a matter of time. By evening, Amy had made a decision. She would call Lena without telling Ethan. Trying her old number might be a stupid move, but she had no other choice. When Ethan went into the shower, Amy took her phone and dialed Lena's number. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice came, familiar but tired. Hello? Amy's heart stopped. Lena, it's me, Amy. Silence on the other end. A long silence. Then Lena's breathing was heard, ragged. Amy? Why are you calling? Lena, I know. About Victor. I am so sorry. Lena's voice went cold. How do you know? I saw it on the news. I saw your picture. I need to talk to you. Talk? Now? My husband is dead, Amy. I'm in no state to chat with old friends. Lena, please. It's very important. Just 10 minutes, face to face. Lena didn't answer for a while. Then she took a deep sigh. Tomorrow, in the afternoon. Let's meet at the old cafe, remember? Near the campus? Okay, tomorrow. Lena hung up. Amy held the phone, her heart still pounding. When Ethan came out of the shower, Amy told him nothing. She just tried to sleep.
The next afternoon, Amy stood in front of the cafe. It was a small, nostalgic place, full of students. When Amy walked in, she saw Lena immediately. She was sitting at a corner table, stirring her coffee. Her eyes were red, her face pale. Amy walked toward her and sat opposite her. Lena looked at her. What was in her eyes? Anger? Curiosity? Exhaustion? Amy, Lena said quietly, we haven't seen each other for years, and now you show up on the day my husband died? Is it a coincidence? Amy swallowed hard. Lena, I have to tell you something, but please listen to me. Until the end. Lena put her coffee on the table and crossed her arms. I'm listening. Amy took a deep breath. Then she began to explain. Meeting Victor, the job offer, that night, the attack, the panic. She told her everything. Her voice was shaking, but she didn't stop herself. Lena listened. Her facial expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed. When Amy finished, Lena didn't speak for a long time. She just looked at Amy. Then she pursed her lips, a bitter smile appearing. Are you saying you defended yourself? Yes, I swear, Lena, he attacked me. You killed him. Amy fell silent. Lena leaned forward, her voice lowered but hardened. Amy, Victor wasn't a good man. I know that. But you killed him and ran away. Now what do you expect from me coming here? Forgiveness? Help? I wanted you to know the truth. Lena leaned back, tearing her eyes away from Amy. She looked out the window, at the people walking on the street. Then she spoke, her voice hollow. Victor wasn't faithful to me. I knew. There were other women. There always were. I just ignored it because he had money. He had status. I just wanted a comfortable life. Amy saw the pain on Lena's face, but the pain wasn't just from Victor's death. It was something deeper, a brokenness suppressed for years. Amy,
Go, Amy. Go and turn yourself in to the police. If you really think you defended yourself, justice will protect you." Amy nodded, but she felt hollow inside. She didn't believe justice would protect her. She never had. When she left the cafe, she called Ethan. She told him she had met with Lena. Ethan was furious, but also worried for Amy. "Come home immediately." As Amy walked home, she was lost in thought. Lena's words echoed in her head. Go and turn yourself in to the police. But Amy was afraid, not just of prison, but of being judged, blamed, scrutinized. When she arrived at the apartment, Ethan was waiting for her at the door. His face was rigid. "Amy, turn on the TV." Amy went into the living room and looked at the television screen. The news was reporting on Victor's murder, but this time there was a different development. Amy stepped closer to the screen. The photo of the detained man was being shown. Young, dark-haired, ordinary-looking. His name was Marcus Grant. He was Victor's former driver, fired a few months ago. Police had determined he was near Victor's villa on the night of the incident. Amy turned to Ethan. What happens if this man is innocent? Ethan didn't answer. He just looked at Amy. There was something in his eyes Amy didn't want to see. Doubt.
That night, Amy couldn't sleep. Marcus Grant's face kept appearing before her eyes. Would an innocent man pay the price for what she did? Amy felt like a fool. Lena had told her the truth, but Amy hadn't listened. Now things had become even more complicated. By morning, Amy had made a decision. She would go to the police. She would tell the truth. Maybe she would be arrested, maybe she would go to court, but at least her conscience would be clear. When she told Ethan, he nodded. "I'll come with you." They went to the police station together. When Amy gave her name to the officers, she was taken into a room by a detective. She was a young woman, short black hair, sharp gaze. Her name was Sarah Reyes. "Sit down," Sarah said. Amy and Ethan sat. Sarah pulled a paper from the files. "Do you have information regarding the murder of Viktor Kuznetsov?" Amy swallowed. "Yes, I was there." Sarah's eyebrows raised. She picked up her pen. "Tell me." Amy told everything. The attack, the panic, the escape. Sarah listened, took notes, asked questions. Amy answered. Finally, Sarah leaned back. "So why did you flee the scene?" "I was scared. I panicked. I did wrong, I know." Sarah looked at Amy for a long time. Then she closed the file. "Do you know Marcus Grant?" "No." "Victor's former driver. He had fired him. Grant might have wanted revenge. Does he look familiar to you?" Amy shook her head. Sarah stood up. "Stay here. I'll be back shortly." Sarah left the room. Amy and Ethan waited in silence. Minutes dragged. Finally, the door opened, but it wasn't Sarah who came in. Another detective, older, white-haired, serious. Sarah was with him, but her face had grown tense. The older detective looked at Amy. "Miss Carter, I need to ask you some questions. Do you know Viktor Kuznetsov's wife, Lena Kuznetsov?" Amy nodded. "I know her from university." "You met with her yesterday?" Amy swallowed. "Yes." The detective threw a file onto the table. He pulled out a few photos. They were images taken from Victor's office, documents on the desk, a computer, and a photograph. Amy looked at the photo as her heart stopped. In the photo were Lena and Victor, but there was someone else, Marcus Grant. "Grant wasn't Kuznetsov's driver," said the detective. "He was Lena Kuznetsov's lover." Amy's world rocked. "What?" Sarah leaned forward. Lena and Marcus were having a secret affair. They had made a plan to seize Victor's money. They were going to kill Victor, then Marcus would look innocent. But things didn't go as they planned, because you stepped in. Amy shook her head. No, that's impossible. Lena told you to turn yourself in, didn't she?" Sarah asked sharply. Because if you turned yourself in, Marcus would go free, and Lena would get the inheritance money. Amy leaned back. Everything was falling into place. Lena's cold stare, meeting her by chance. It was all a game. Ethan touched Amy's hand. Don't believe them. Maybe they're wrong. But the detective pulled a recording from the file, a phone call recording. He turned up the volume. It was Lena's voice. Victor, Amy is going to turn herself in. Just wait a little longer. Then you'll be free, and we will be free. Marcus's voice answered. What if Amy talks? She won't talk. No one will believe her. The recording ended. Amy's eyes filled with tears. Lena. Her old friend Lena. She had used her. Maybe she had planned for her to kill Victor. Maybe Amy was just a tool in a grand game. The detective looked at Amy. Lena and Marcus were arrested this morning. We were already watching them when you came here. Your statement completed everything. Amy took her head between her hands. She wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. There was only emptiness, a deep, dark void. Sarah touched Amy's shoulder. I know this is hard for you, but we will file a self-defense case. There is evidence of Victor's attack. The traces we found at the scene support your scenario. You won't go to prison. Amy lifted her head, looked at Sarah, then at Ethan. What about Marcus? She whispered. He's innocent. Lena used him. Sarah shook her head. Marcus is guilty too. He was complicit in the plan. They planned to kill Victor together. You just beat them to it. Amy was confused. Everything was happening so fast. But one thing had become clear. Lena had used her, betrayed her, and Amy was just a piece in a big game. Weeks passed. The court process began. Amy proceeded with a self-defense plea. Victor's past was investigated. A history of violence against women was revealed. Amy's testimony was heard. The jury accepted self-defense. Amy was free. But freedom felt strange to her. Lena and Marcus were being tried in prison. Victor was dead. And Amy? Amy was just alive. But the emptiness inside her wouldn't fill. One evening, Ethan took her to the beach. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink. Waves were hitting the shore. Silence prevailed on the sand. Amy sat down. Ethan sat beside her. How are you feeling? Ethan asked. Amy didn't answer for a long time. Then she took a deep breath. I don't know. Like I'm lost. Ethan placed his hand on Amy's hand. You're not lost. You're still here. Amy turned to him. Tears welled up in her eyes. But I don't know who I am anymore. I killed a man. My best friend betrayed me. Everything seemed like a lie. Ethan embraced Amy. Amy leaned on his chest and cried silently. The sound of the waves echoed in her ears. The sun set. Darkness came. And Amy knew that this darkness, perhaps, would never fully pass. 3 months later, she was sitting in the courtroom. It was Lena's trial. Amy was called as a witness, but didn't have to come. Still, she came. She needed to see Lena's face, look into her eyes, perhaps understand something. The courtroom was cold, the ceilings high, walls gray, people silent. Amy sat in the back row. Lena was sitting in the defendant's chair, looking shrunken inside the orange jumpsuit. Her hair was tied back, her face pale, her eyes lacking the sparkle Amy knew. The prosecutor spoke, listed the evidence, told how Lena and Marcus had been together for years, planned to seize Victor's money, and how Amy accidentally got involved in this plan. Phone records, bank movements, witness statements, everything was clear. Lena's lawyer made a defense, said Lena was abused by Victor, was afraid, took refuge in Marcus. But the evidence was sufficient. The jury gave its verdict. Guilty. Lena bowed her head. Her shoulders shook. Was she crying? Amy didn't know. Maybe she was crying. Maybe she was just tired.
When the hearing ended, Amy stood up. Lena lifted her head and saw Amy. Their eyes met. For a moment, time stopped. What was in Lena's eyes? Regret? Anger? Or just emptiness? Amy didn't know, and perhaps she would never know. When she left the court, Ethan was waiting for her outside. Amy said nothing to him. She just took his arm and they walked together. "How do you feel?" Ethan asked. Amy didn't answer. She just looked at the sky. The clouds were heavy. It looked like it would rain, but it wasn't raining yet. It just seemed to be waiting. "I don't know," she said finally, as if a door closed but another door didn't open. "I'm just standing in the hallway." Ethan put his hand on Amy's hand. "It will take time, but it will pass." Amy nodded, but the voice inside her told her something else. Some things don't pass. Some wounds don't heal. You just get used to the pain. 6 months later, Amy moved to a new city. It was a small, quiet coastal town. The sea was visible from her window every morning. Amy started taking photos again there, but this time she wasn't shooting people, but landscapes. The sea, the sky, the birds, the rocks, inanimate things. Ethan had come with her. The two had started living in a small house. In the mornings, they drank coffee and looked at the sea. In the evenings, they ate silently. At night, they slept side by side. There wasn't much to talk about, but there was no need to talk either. One evening, Amy was walking on the beach. The sun was setting, the sky was red. The sand under her feet was soft. The waves wet her feet. Amy stopped and looked at the sea. Victor came to her mind. That night, the blood, the silence. Then Lena came, her eyes, her betrayal. And Marcus came. He was a pawn, too. Maybe he had loved Lena. Maybe he was just used. Amy took a deep breath. Her chest ached, but she didn't cry. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just feeling. The weight, the burden, and with time, maybe this weight lightened a little. She turned back and walked toward the house. Ethan was on the terrace, reading something. Amy sat beside him. "You good?" asked Ethan. "I'm good," said Amy, and this time it felt a little more real. Night fell. Stars appeared. The sea was still undulating, ceaselessly, tirelessly. Amy closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she fell into a deep sleep. Nightmares didn't come. There was only silence, and this silence was perhaps the best gift. A year later, Amy opened an exhibition. They were all sea photos. Waves, horizons, sunsets. Every photo was an emotion. Loss, search, hope. A few people came to the opening of the exhibition. Local artists, enthusiasts. Amy stood in the corner watching people, watching them look at her photos, stop and think, maybe feel something. A woman approached Amy, young, smiling. "It's very beautiful," she said. "Each one. It's like telling a story." Amy nodded. "Thank you." The woman stood in front of a photo. It was a stormy sea, waves crashing on the shore, powerful, wild, but also beautiful. "This is my favorite, as if it shows the storm inside everyone." Amy looked at that photo, remembered the day she took it. The wind was very violent, it was raining, but Amy had stood there and kept shooting, because at that moment, at that exact moment, she had felt something. Freedom, pain, both together. "Yes," Amy said quietly, "there is a storm inside everyone." The woman smiled and walked away. Amy was left alone, but loneliness wasn't scary anymore. It was just a reality. and Amy was learning to live with this reality. The exhibition ended. People dispersed. Amy looked at the photos for the last time. Then she turned off the lights and went out. Ethan was waiting for her outside. "How was it?" he asked.
"It was good," said Amy. "It was really good." The two started walking. The streets were silent. Only the sound of the sea came from afar. Amy lifted her head to the sky. The stars were shining. "Ethan," she said. "Yes?" "Thank you." Ethan looked at her. "For what?" "For staying. For not leaving." Ethan smiled. He put his hand on Amy's hand. "I never left." Amy leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder, and they continued to walk, silently, peacefully. Victor's death was in the past now. Lena was in prison, so was Marcus. Amy was free. But freedom was a strange thing. There was no guarantee of anything. There was only a chance to start over. Amy had decided to use this chance. She would take photos, she would live, she would feel the pain and the joy, because both were parts of life. And maybe, just maybe, one day when she looked back, she would see that terrible night only as a memory that gave pain but remained behind. That day hadn't come yet, but it would. Amy believed in this, and this belief was enough for now. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next story.